People of Earth, it is I, the Great Goonan, and this is the Great Goonan Podcast, and I am here today with Brooke Hoover, actress, comedian, writer, director, producer, and now health nut. How are you, Brooke? How you doing?
Hey, Charles, I'm good, man.
You're doing all right. Now, Brooke and I know each other because we worked on the show Boardwalk Empire, and this is the picture right here of us. And in that show, she was playing the Boardwalk Empire. Of course, takes place in the 1920s, and she was playing a 1920s Chicago prostitute, which is not typecasting. And I was playing one of her Johns, which is typecasting. And I remember that we spent a long time on set, having to wait for shots and everything. And all we did was talk about the old musicals and songs we like and started singing and stuff like that while you were in your 20s corset thingy and I was in my suit. Remember that?
Yes. Oh, yes.
The good old days, the 1920s, when prostitution was legal? No, I don't think so. But when I saw you and when I showed the picture right there, one of the most striking things is you must have lost a hell of a lot of weight.
Yeah, I've lost about 100 pounds. And I think from that picture, I maybe lost, it was like 75 down or so. So that was like at one point in the journey. And Boardwalk Empire helped me along that journey. I mean, like I ate so much food because like you said, we had a lot of downtime, but it also helped me obviously, as we know, scantily clad, get more comfortable with my body because you had no choice.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So I didn't want to get into it right away, but I might as well. What did you do? What did you do to lose all that weight?
Oh gosh. Well, I jumped, I was a skinny kid, and around puberty, I just started getting really overweight. And it was kind of inexplicable because I didn't have a horrible diet. It wasn't wonderful, but it was like what every other child of the 80s ate, which is not the best. But then again, it's to go from super skinny to blimping up overnight, it was like something's not right, and that it happened around puberty. So I have polycystic ovarian syndrome, and it took a long time to find that out. So basically I have to be careful what I eat. So it's not just, cut the calories, but it's cut the refined sugars because it all affects your hormones and stuff. So kind of eating a diet like the South Beach diet, or nowadays people are doing keto, which I'm on the fence about keto because that's almost like the Atkins diet. It's almost too much fat. So basically restricting any white carbohydrates, sugar, anything added, any preservatives. I kind of stick to a paleo, but also vegan diet, which doesn't really make any sense, but it's something that I do. And I exercise a little bit every day, either a lot or a little bit, depending on our freelance life. I try to get it in as much as possible.
And what, or rather, who is polyvaginosis? What'd you say? What was the word? Who is this lady polyvaginosis? I think I went out with that
polyvaginosis. Lady. I think that's a sketch character coming on, Charles.
I think I used to date that broad.
I knew her in a past life, and she was a beast. She was funky. So polycystic ovarian syndrome, it means that you don't necessarily have a lot of cysts on your ovaries. I personally don't. You can, like you, not Charles, but you, a person who is born female and still has ovaries. Well, you know what I mean, has ovaries. So basically your body's producing not enough estrogen and too much testosterone, and it's an insulin resistance situation. So you may develop type 2 diabetes. So you have to really keep that in track. Your body's basically working against you. It's an endocrine, a metabolic syndrome. So when it's a syndrome, it means it's always going to be happening. You're always going to be living with it in some shape or form, and the levels of it depend on how well you handle it, either with prescription medication or diet and exercise, or a combination of all of the above.
But it is then decidedly something that affects women.
Yes.
And why is that?
I don't really know. And it's 10% of women, which seems like not a lot, but it is a lot actually.
Yeah.
And it's like, I didn't find out what was quote unquote wrong with me until like college. And clearly I was living with this since I was like 13 years old. So it took almost like 10 years to even know what was going on. There's no real cure for it. And I mean, I'm not really answering your question, like per se. It's basically inexplicable. Can it be genetic? Yes. Does my mom have it? Does my aunt, did my grandma have it? None of them had it. But my my maternal grandpa had borderline diabetes. My dad has type 2 diabetes. So could it be inherited somehow, like through that gene? I don't really know. I don't know that it's really genetic. I don't know any of those components, and I don't really know the doctors know either. And all the doctors probably want to kill me now, but I have a lot of mixed thoughts and feelings about the modern medical system.
But specifically speaking, then, diet and exercise is curative for it.
Yes, as well as for me, herbs have helped.
What do you mean? What do you mean? You mean smoking
herbs?
What do you mean?
Oh, believe me, I used to love, I don't know if we could say this, but I used to love smoking the ganja. Yeah. Oh, I just said that. I'm totally dating myself, but you're an old soul, so you get it.
Well,
but
I call it, hey, I'm even more old-fashioned. I call it reefer.
Yeah, I was about to say, I bet you call it reefer, like Reefer Madness. That's a film right there. But no, herbs such as, what do I have some right here in front of me? On my,
you got some weed?
Well, I do have a little bit, but my acupuncturist sells me herbs. And also there's certain herbs like, this is like, I can't even pronounce it. Chow Hu Su Gan Tung. She knows how to pronounce it. I can't really pronounce it.
Yeah, that
a Chinese herbal mix.
Chinese Xiao Gun. Yeah, that was my waitress at the restaurant the other day. Yeah.
Oh, you, Charles. There's other herbs you could take, like chaseberry, vitex, evening primrose oil. My mom says you're cute because this is a magic curtain. Hey, so Charles. Mom says, "Hey, Charles." It's so funny, but
hey, cutie pie. Hey, Charles.
Oh, she says you're a cutie pie. Hey, Charles.
Like
we're messing up the podcast. Like, this is very annoying for people.
No, you're not. No, you're not. So long as it's,
thought.
No, she's not messing up anything. So long as it's a compliment to me, then it's perfect.
Oh, Charles. But so diet and exercise do affect it because it kind of goes into, I wish I could explain this better, and this is why we need a real doctor here. But it's like finding that balance, right? So if you have PCOS and you're eating too much sugar, too much processed foods, your body's working extra hard to pump that insulin. And so all your symptoms are going to get extra worse. They're going to get extra.
So now you're from Louisiana, right?
Word. Yes.
Now in Louisiana, the food is so good that it's easy to get addicted to food, you know?
Yes.
So like, what was your favorite dish back home?
Oh, Charles, and I love that you're talking about that because this goes hand in hand with my my podcast. Oh gosh, one of my most favorite foods is called dobosh cake. And it's spelled Doberge. That's French pronunciation, d'auberge, but in Cajun French, we say dobosh cake. And it's like a cold, tall layer cake. It's amazing. Nowadays, it comes in multiple different flavors, but that's one of my weaknesses, as well as king cake, biscuits. So basically anything that's made with white carbohydrates, because they're the best. They rise and they're fluffy and they're wonderful. They're and my body cannot have that crap, you know? But I love it.
Yeah. And when did you start performing? When did you start being an actor and performing?
I think I started performing coming out of the womb, but I really
that must have been painful. Actors, right? That must have been painful.
Ouch for Mama, right? And she didn't have any painkillers. Speaking of herb,
especially if you were tap dancing or anything like that. But what
I probably was tap dancing. I
mean professionally though.
Professionally. So right out of college, I think my first gig, and I'll do it based on my first paid gig, it was for a burlesque troupe called the Glamazons. And that was in 2003. I was paid like to dance at the former cutting room. The cutting room has since kind of moved locations within the city, but I was paid to like shake my tits in a corset And I got paid like $150 cash. I was very proud of myself. And then the group dropped me because I couldn't dance or sing good enough. I got a Dear John letter from, kicking me out of a burlesque troupe. So that was awesome.
But back then, though, were you thin?
No, I was bigger. But I was actually still one of the skinnier glamazons. So I'd like to think it was because I wasn't big enough that they kicked me out. Who knows? But yeah, I was just shaking my stuff, and I did it because I was like, this is a gig and I'm getting paid. Let me do it. I wasn't fully comfortable with myself, but I still did it.
But I mean, the reason why I was asking was because, in show business, it's always about looks and everything like that, especially with women. But I always imagine, knowing you over the years, that you got work because you were big, that you you had a certain look. You know what I mean?
I totally know what you mean. And like earlier on in my life and my career, had I accepted my bigness, I think I would have gotten even more work. If you hear weird noise, speaking of big, it's my 10-pound Pomeranian making a little nest. She goes to town. But it's funny, like when I started losing weight, there was a time when I was still big, but not quite normal enough, when I wasn't hardly getting anything. And my agent at the time, who's still my friend, I called him one day and he was like, Brooke, he's like, you're like in a weird place. I'm going to be honest with you. And I used to just say, I just want to audition for like the role of the lawyer or the judge and not audition for overweight white trash woman at Walmart. Right. And so as I started losing weight, I got a new agent just because that's how it happened. I was freelance, no love lost with my friend who was my agent at the time. I started getting more auditions for roles like that. And nowadays it's rare when I get an audition for the role of bigger woman. And when I do get it, I'm like, oh, come on. But I know in comparison to most actresses out there, I'm still bigger, even though I'm a size 10, which is normal or skinny in the Midwest or in the South. But, in New York and LA, it's Hollywood, I'm still obese to them.
No, you're also relative. Well, how tall are you? You're
I'm 5'8". So yeah. I'm pretty tall in comparison.
Yeah, that's what was also funny when we were doing Boardwalk Empire, because I'm 5'4". So I'm
so you literally came up to tit height, but like I trusted you. I'm like, Charles, let me put you to my bosom. You and Alan, Rodney Dangerfield, I totally connected with y'all on day one because I told them, I said, y'all better not pair me with a creep because I'll kick his ass. And they were afraid that I would kick one of y'all's asses. And I did a couple times, not yours. We always were friends.
Did you really?
And Doug too, huh?
Was there really
Pardon?
were there really people who were inappropriate?
Yeah, and I had to put them in their place, and I kind of stood up for the other girls too. I mean, there were some principal actors who were totally inappropriate, and that was well before the Me Too movement. I could have had some legal things going on, but this girl wanted to keep a job, and I was having fun, and it's like, I don't know. I don't want to like dig myself into a hole here, but we had a good time and there was never anything totally inappropriate. And our assistant directors, Jude and Julie, they always had our backs. They were wonderful and y'all were wonderful. Let's put it this way. If there was ever a John that was bad, he wasn't asked back. Or same with the hookers. If people gave trouble, you weren't asked back. They tried to really keep us safe that way. Like, y'all too, the Johns too.
Yeah, I mean, overall, that was a pretty good set. Like, that's why I was.
Oh my God. Yeah. If I could do that for the rest of my life, I'd be happy. I mean, like that and other things, but it was a great, steady gig with good people. It felt like theater, I coughed up.
Because we got to dress up too. We had the 1920s outfits and stuff. I mean, I think for like 2.5 years, I didn't pay for a haircut. I didn't, I never.
I didn't pay for food.
I didn't pay for food. I could go to work in sweatpants and t-shirt because they were going to give me the suit and everything like that. Yeah, that was a great time.
Yeah, those were the days, literally. The 2010s and the 1920s. Those were our days, Charles.
Those were our days. So then a while back, but not too long ago, you started. I have a web series called Tune Into Goonan that's up on YouTube and stuff like that, and it's brilliant. But
yes.
but you also had one for a while, Pageant Mom, didn't you?
Yes, Pageant Pom Mom, starring my late rescue dogs and a lot of my really good friends, inspired by Christopher Guest and all the mockumentary craziness.
And it's still up now, right?
It's still up. I mean, we haven't created new episodes because obviously that's a lot of time and money, especially when you're dealing with animals.
Wow.
And, you know, divas like me and my boyfriend, we were probably the biggest two divas in the cast. But yeah, one day we'll like to, you know, refurbish it furbish it somehow. But yeah, it's still up there and still trying to bring positivity to people.
And now you mentioned you're doing a podcast, and your podcast is particularly about eating right and trying to stay healthy. What is it called?
It's called Who's Dat Fat Girl, and it's inspired by Who's Dat, as in Who Dat for the New Orleans Saints, and fat, pretty hot and tempting, because a lady once called me fat back in the day, but she said pretty hot and tempting. And I was like, oh, let me embrace that. And Who's Dat Fat Girl, the podcast is inspired by my solo show, Fat Girl Costumes.
And what was that about?
That's about basically taking a journey back to the 1980s up until the present of learning how to accept myself through Halloween costumes that my mom made for me. Yeah.
What costumes?
Crazy.
Tell me.
Oh gosh, my favorite one was the genie costume, but my director and my best friend Brian's like, Brooke, you weren't a genie, you were a harem girl. Like, look at that outfit. Another one, I was a flapper. Like, my mom let me do all like this kind of crazy, sexy stuff, I think, because she liked to make the costumes, you know. I was a joker, or a court jester. Let's see what else. An angel with black angel wings. Oh, Mama's chiming in from the background. Huh? Oh, a Care Bear, but that wasn't a sexy costume, but it was too hot to wear that because in Louisiana, you can't wear like felt and crap like that because in Louisiana, it's like 80 degrees for Halloween. Yeah, those are some of the many favorite Halloween costumes.
And now that you do this podcast about staying healthy and eating healthy, do you ever try to sort of reconcile the food you liked growing up in a healthy version, or is there a way to have that, you know, have fun with food too, but also
Charles, keep going. I just got excited. Keep going. I'm sorry.
What happened? You got excited?
No, I just got excited and I interrupted you.
Oh, no, I said, do you have like, do you have a way of sort of incorporating the food you liked with healthy versions of it and being healthier?
Charles, are you doing your homework and researching? Or are you in my brain? Or are you like my soulmate in a past life? Because that's exactly, look at you. That's it. For people who aren't watching, he's pointing to his head like, like mind meld. That's exactly what it's about. It's about either A, how do I allow myself to have the cheat day and just eat the bad food for the day and realize, hey, this is just a moment in time. I'm going to eat the piece of king cake. I'm going to feel crazy and wacky for about 5 or 6 hours, and then I'll reset a little later. Or how do I make the healthier version of that food? Like 2 days ago, I tried to make a healthier version of biscuits with just Greek yogurt and baking powder, salt, and, oh my God, almond flour. And no, like there's no substitute for a good old Southern biscuit, but these things tasted more like scones, and they were good. They were appetizing. My mom didn't like them, but my dogs and I did. So it is like that, finding that dance. The dogs, Archer really liked it. The dance, the balance of when do you go healthy and find the healthier version, or when do you just pig out and gorge and just move on to the next thing, you know? Yeah.
And what is your exercise regimen then?
Oh gosh. Well, there is we became friends from Zoom. I'm going to give her a plug, Buff Hussy. And I love the name of that because I'm the fat girl with the PH. She's Buff Hussy. Debbie Ziondi, she's also a comedian, and she's studying medicine. I would do her Zoom classes every day, Monday through Friday during COVID. The height of the quarantine, I lost 30 pounds just thanks to doing that. Every day for 45 minutes. They were like HIIT, high intensity interval training classes. I also do classes with another fellow actress on Zoom named Rebecca Vigil. These classes are like free or donation based. My friend Amy Fulgham does, and you know Amy from Boardwalk. Amy does yoga, especially yin yoga. But I also just do a ton of like YouTube classes. I like the wacky dance classes. I like yoga. I do everything at home. I'm not paying for the gym anymore. I don't want to go breathe other people's funk. I would like to start swimming again, but I'll have to see how I feel about that. Yeah, so basically I exercise at least 20 minutes every day because otherwise I go crazy. I have anxiety. I've got to channel my energy somehow, you know? He's laughing. You know me all too well.
Do you have any acting projects coming up? Or?
Oh, Charles, I wish I did. In the past 2 years, my mom and I have put me on self-tape, put me on camera for self-tapes so many times. I've been pinned and teased a lot of times, but nothing yet. I have, and I am still in the process of applying for grants with my solo show. I have a kid's book I'm working on, but nothing yet. I feel like there's an internal cyst or pimple that's going to pop, and I don't know when the hell it's going to pop, but I hope it does, and I hope it's good. Look at your face.
You got great imagery. The imagery you're using, pimples popping and everything.
Yeah, I love to pop pimples, so that's always a fun thing.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm surprised they don't have that as one of the Winter Olympic sports. What?
Oh, they should.
I know, right? What is the children's book about?
It's about because I'm all about self-acceptance and positivity. It's about a swamp monster who doesn't fit in, and she's learning to accept herself. And it takes place down in Louisiana. And look at you laughing because you just know me all too well. And you're like, I wish I was still on set with this girl so I could have a crazy, you know, like we always have crazy times. Your face is cracking me up. I mean that in the best way possible.
A swamp monster that doesn't quite fit in. You mean with the other swamp monsters?
No, she's the only swamp monster. Her and her family are the only swamp monsters. So she doesn't fit in with the little perfect, you know, nutria or loons or crawfish, you know, because crawfish are perfect. Crawfish are like the mean girls, you know.
What is the swamp creature's name?
Her name's Texarkana.
Texarkana.
And that's a town up where Texas, obviously, you know, Arkansas, Louisiana meet, which is not a Cajun town, but Texarkana rhymes with Louisiana. So I had to do that, you know.
Are you Cajun, or you just because you grew up there?
Yeah, I'm half Cajun. So my mama's side is Cajun and my dad's side is not Cajun. They're like waspy, boring North Louisiana, Arkansas people. But I think it's kind of like Judaism. If your mom identifies with that culture, then you identify fully with that culture. So my mom's side is definitely Cajun.
See, I thought your children's book was going to be about your dogs, like the way Pageant Mom was about.
Well, that there is another one in the works, and yeah, Annie is trying to write it right now, but she doesn't have opposing thumbs, so she has to dictate it, and I'm going to have to transcribe it for her. But there is kind of something on the back burner because my mind is so ADD, so it's all over the place.
Right.
I know. You're like, what did I get myself into?
A lot to digest. When you decided that you were gonna lose weight and exercise, what was the hardest thing? Because I think it's not easy to do. Once you do it, once you're in it, it's okay. But I think starting is the most difficult thing. Saying today I'm going to do this, or today I'm going to start doing this. It's sometimes the hardest thing to do is the first step, wouldn't you say?
Totally. I think the hardest part is saying that 15 minutes today is good enough. Like some days I just would not, and you know how it is with our schedules, some days I just would not have the time, or I would not want to put in the time. So I would say, that's it. I'm throwing the towel in. I didn't exercise today. Screw it. I'm a bad person. And then that wouldn't propel me to want to do it the next day. I started saying, let me just do 15 minutes a day, you know, or like, you know, my boyfriend and I, we don't get to see each other as much as we would like to just because of our schedules. So sometimes he would come hang out and I'd be like, I didn't get my exercise in. Like, you like hang out. You can babysit the dogs, watch the dogs. Let me lift weights while we talk and visit, and just trying to get it in. Like, I swear people would want to kill me, but I'll be doing squats on set or like leg lifts or something, just trying to get things in as much as I can and realizing that 5, 10, 15 minutes is better than nothing. And that's like a tumbleweed in a good way. It just kind of adds up and adds up and adds up.
And how important is getting enough sleep?
Oh, dude, that's so important. If I don't get at least 7 hours a night, I'm a beast. I will rearrange my whole schedule based on that. Like my social calendar, people know, like, let's meet up for breakfast, lunch, or brunch, because Brooke will not do dinner. And besides, I don't eat dinner. I don't eat past 4 or 5 o'clock. So I don't do dinner. I don't do like drinks late night, because then I'm up the whole night. So sleep is super important. My acupuncturist is always like, how's your sleep? She's also like, how's your poop? But she's like, how is your sleep? Because sleep is such a huge factor into losing weight. Look at Charles's face. I know. Look at that face.
Stop for a second. Can I ask you, how is your poop?
It's normal. It's good.
What do you mean? Wait a minute. What do you mean normal? What is normal poop?
Well, that's a good question, because my friend.
I know it is.
It's that's why you asked it.
It not only is it a good question, it's probably the most important question we've had so far.
Hey, Charles. So there's a book called, and you probably know, what's your poo telling you? And there's also a book called What's My Pee Telling Me?
Oh, you mean Mark Twain? You're talking about Mark Twain?
Mark Twain, yeah. I keep it on top of my toilet in case people want to read about it. But having regular poop is very important, and not enough people know this or talk about it. The formation, it needs to be well formed. Regular is good. People who only poop once or twice a week, that might be their normal, but I say that's crazy. How can y'all just poop once or twice a week? That's not good.
No, I'm from an Italian family. I'm 3 times a day, usually 3 times a day, you know.
Yeah, that's good. You let it out, you know?
Let it all out. Let it all out.
Oh, Charles.
I don't know if you drink coffee. I don't know if like your diet made you stop drinking coffee, but I find in the morning coffee is like a diuretic. It makes me have to go to the bathroom.
Oh, it is. It helps for the second poop of the day sometimes. And I do coffee. Oh, I just lost my hair clip. I'll do coffee with chicory because I'm from Louisiana, or I'll do decaf.
You like it bitter.
Yeah, I like it a little bitter. I don't add sugar, nothing.
Me too. No sugar milk.
Hey,
that's
kindred spirits. Oh, well, I add like coconut creamer. I got to have a little something. I know you're extra crazy.
I like it black.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I like it like caramel color.
It is like are you talking about your poop again? What are you talking?
No, I'm talking about my coffee, you crazy.
Okay. I didn't know we were gonna
I know, because I'm so ADD.
I didn't realize you were this cocky. That was a duty joke, everybody. Thank you very much. But, so you just started this podcast then?
Like 2 weeks ago, January 31st. Yeah.
So it's actually almost serendipitous, because I didn't really know that when I said, hey, let's do it.
Wow.
No.
Really? And Charles, what's your zodiac sign? You've told me and I've forgotten.
Okay, well, I want you to first try to guess. And if you can't guess right, I'll give you the best clue. But see if you can go first guess. And then if you can't, I'll give you the clue that will give it away.
Because we get along very well. I would say you're Gemini.
No.
No? Okay.
I am the only sign that isn't a living substance or person.
Oh, dear Lord. So you're Aquarius. No, that's water.
It's water.
Oh my gosh. Aquarius. Then that one that we're in right now. And then there's Pisces. That's a fish. Taurus. No, Gemini is the twins. Crab is the Leo, is me, a Virgo, Scorpio, Libra. You're a Libra. Harry's a Libra. Okay. Then I'm a Libra rising. Yeah. Okay. I was going to say, but see, Gemini was close because there's that duality, but it's just kind of a different duality. Gemini is like the crazy duality, and Libra's like the balanced duality.
Yes. That's why I like
Though I have both in my chart. So
that's why I like to have regular duty, ladies. It is my duty to have regular
duty. You're going to make a bumper sticker with that.
Well, and I won't even have to use a marker. But I love duty jokes. Anyway,
me too.
So you just started this, and is it your goal to try to sort of, for lack of a better term, convert people to this understanding of not only how to eat better, but particularly women with that condition you were talking about, polybergen. What was it called?
Polybergen, Polybergen County, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Polycystic ovarian syndrome.
Right.
It's also to make people understand that when you're bigger, you're still a person too. I think people oftentimes just view bigger people as you're like just a thing, that you don't have feelings, you don't have a heart, that you could just snap and you should be able to become skinny or in a cookie cutter shape as soon as possible. It is to educate people about polycystic ovarian syndrome. And it's to embrace the imperfection with life and with weight loss, and basically to learn to accept yourself. I think right now most of my listeners are women, but there's a good deal of male identifying people, connecting with it as well. I think it's about celebrating the underdog in all of us. And I also know that there's a big body positivity movement. Like, I'm going to be big and loud and proud, or have scars and be loud and proud. And I'm like, hey, I'm still not loud and proud. Where's that happy medium? Why can't we just call it like it is? Like, nobody's ever 110% happy with themselves. And that's what I'm also calling out, because I feel like there's a lot of fakeness out there, and I'm sick of that.
And with the amount of weight that you lost, what would you say is the biggest difference to your quality of life?
Being able to go up and down subway stairs, like, there's no problem. I'll run up the subway stairs now. I'm like, let's go. I also quit smoking around the same time that my weight loss happened. And I think quitting smoking helped me lose weight, because my friend Brian, he said, and he's a former smoker who quit as well, he said, smoking doesn't keep you skinny. Smoking keeps you in a state of stagnation. So if you're trying to lose weight, quitting smoking is not necessarily going to make you gain weight. You just have to figure out what you're going to do with that eye to hand habit,
The oral fixation.
Oral fixation. Yeah. So now I just drink a ton of water, and I put chapstick on like 30 times a day, and that's fine.
But yeah, so you feel lighter. You can go up these stairs.
Yeah.
You're not out of breath as much like that. So this is a good thing. Do you think it's wrong that people, when Adele lost weight, some people are yelling at her online because she's happy and proud about it?
I think that's totally wrong, because I feel like everybody's journey is individualistic, and a lot of people are like, well, just be big and be accepting of yourself. And I'm like, yes and no, because society for so long has made it modern society. I know, back in the day, big people, we're like a Baudelaire, or like a work of art. Modern society, no, at least modern society 5-10 years ago. Society makes it hard. And there's the health component. People will say, well, what if you're 300 pounds, but you're totally healthy? Cool. You're totally healthy now, but what's going to happen to you in 10 or 15 years? None of us know. I'm not saying that if you go to the doctor with an earache and you're technically obese, that the doctor should beat you up for that. Hell no, no way. But we've all got to find our individual journeys, And for me, it was losing weight.
But also there isn't anything wrong if we ought to follow the science to say that it's probably healthier to not be obese.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Because
accept yourself where you are right now, where your size is, but know that I'm doing this for my health, not for an aesthetic. I just said aesthetic.
Back to duty jokes.
Back to duty jokes.
But that's what I mean. They also gave crap to Rebel Wilson for losing weight, and it's like, why? She looks great, and she probably feels so much better. I mean, she was very heavy, but I mean, and there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with wanting to get healthier, and a lot of times, do you know Penn Jillette? You know who I'm talking about?
Yes, totally.
Okay, so he lost a lot of weight, and
a lot.
He's a very, very tall guy, so he never looked like fat, but he was a very big guy. And what happened to him was that when he went to the doctor, they said, well, you have this problem, this problem, this problem, this problem. I could give you all these medications, or if you lost 100 pounds, it'll probably all go away. And he decided to do that. And there is something to be said about that. And it shouldn't be yes, you shouldn't fat shame people, but you shouldn't shame people for wanting to lose weight either.
Exactly. I feel like there's got to be a happy medium, you know, and I'm sure throughout my podcast, as the episodes go on, people are going to want to kill me for some of the stuff I say, but I'm totally with you on that, you know?
Well, of course. I mean, there isn't anything wrong with that. That's what I think is very important. And I think it's important that you do say that, because you're not saying that if let's say a fat person is a bad person or wrong or less than somebody else, but what you are saying is that there's nothing wrong with being healthier, and you probably will extend your life.
Yeah. I mean, it's a medical fact, and people have to run their numbers too and know their blood work numbers. I hate taking blood, like getting blood work done, but it helps you always keep in check of what your numbers are, you know, like my thyroid is borderline low and my cholesterol is borderline high. So I'm having to constantly keep that in check, even though technically I'm not overweight anymore. I still have borderline high cholesterol and borderline high blood pressure. You know, I don't want to go on meds for it. So the one main thing is to keep the weight down.
And we were talking
medical fact.
We were talking about food, and food is great. I mean, I love food too. Food is the toughest thing. One of the toughest things. Smoking is very tough to quit too. Smoking is tougher to quit. Like, I don't drink. I'm almost 4 years, no alcohol. And I lost a lot of weight from doing that.
Wow. Congrats.
But food is very tough. But at least in America, there's a lot of crap food. There's a lot of the normal food that we eat with like all this corn syrup that's everywhere and stuff like that. All this crap I mean, it's delicious, but it's not good for you. You know, it's like I love Coca-Cola, but I know it's not good for me. But I love it. It's great, you know?
Yeah.
But
like the breakfast cereals, like the breakfast cereal most of them are so horrible for you. And yet we're taught, get your cereal, you know, feed your kids cereal. And that's like not nutritious food, really.
Well, think about the cereals.
For the most part.
Think about the cereals we ate growing up. They were the most unhealthy. Cookie Crisp.
Yeah, Cookie Crisp. Charles, that was the first one I was thinking of, because it was forbidden. It was forbidden in my house. So I had to go to my aunt and uncle's house to eat it. It was forbidden in the Hoover household. Little
cookie-looking things that you put in a bowl of milk and ate, and it was just a bowl of sugar you were eating, but it was supposed to be part of your balanced breakfast. Remember the commercial?
Yeah.
Part of your
it was like the two burglars, I can't say burglar, and the dog who was also a burglar. And remember, they were the advertisement for it.
Well, that tells you all you need to know. What about Sugar Crisps with the bear who would get bigger?
Yeah. They're rice puffed. I'm going to have a whole episode called Serial Killers on my podcast called Serial Killers. So we should talk about it more. Yeah. What was one that I loved? I love Lucky Charms. And Lucky Charms is, I like to like crunch those like hard marshmallows in my teeth. Yeah. I mean, like, what were you eating? Nothing but chemicals, but it was so satisfying.
Oh, it was great. But what I used to like about the Sugar Crisp bear is that he talked like Bing Crosby, who's my favorite, you know.
Yes.
So he would go like, I can't get enough of my Sugar Crisp, the Sugar Crisp. Oh, I love you better stay away from my Sugar Crisp. And he used to talk like Bing, and I like that. But
he was sexy.
But yeah, and like almost like the way Popeye got strength from spinach, the Sugar Crisp would get bigger and become like a bigger bear when he would eat a Sugar Crisp. Or Honey Smacks with the frog.
Oh, Honey Smacks. And Honeycomb.
Honeycomb, yeah.
That my uncle, he always had that at his house, my aunt and uncle. So I would go to their house and binge on Honeycomb, because we didn't have that at my house. We only had fruit and fiber and grape nuts at my house. So I was obsessed with, I just shook the screen with Honeycomb.
Got so excited about Honeycomb.
I got so excited about that damn Honeycomb.
But the thing is, like, you know, it's so funny that the crap that we used to eat that was like advertised as part of your complete breakfast and stuff like that, there are things that I liked as a kid that I don't like at all now. Like I hardly ever drink milk at all.
Ew.
But I like milk product. I like cheese and stuff like that. And I love ice cream, but I don't have it that often. I don't have that much of a sweet tooth. I have the other thing, the salty. Like I'd much rather eat a bag of chips, potato chips, than eat like a cookie or something like that, which is just as bad for you. But like I have that type of thing. I like to eat bitter. Like when you were talking about the bitter coffee, I like bitter more than sweet. I like salty more than sweet. But that's bad for your blood pressure too, if you have too much salt.
It is, but my problem is I like both. Like I like the sweet and salty. So like the pretzel dipped in chocolate or stuff like that, like or like cowboy cookies because they're like a mixture of like salty, sweet junk.
What's a cowboy cookie? I never.
So I'm gonna explain this wrong, but it's basically like a chocolate chip cookie, but like with everything in it. So there's like a little bit of salty chocolate going on. I think there's oatmeal in it. You just basically combine all the crap you have at your house into like a cookie. I can get you like the recipe, but it's obviously chocolate chips, salt or sea salt if you fancy. I think you could put butterscotch, oatmeal, regular flour. So there's like a salty sweet element about a cowboy cookie. It's like a chocolate peanut butter cookie kind of.
Now I'm getting hungry. But what was you said you were trying to do a little bit of vegan, but it's very hard to be vegan.
It is. It is.
You got to give up mostly the things that exist. It's like
right.
You got to give up all animal products. And I mean, I love eggs and cheese too much. I love those things. And I was for years, I didn't eat red meat for years. I think when you first met me, I didn't eat red meat, but that's
right.
a long time ago now. I eat red meat now. I do eat red meat. I still don't eat pork.
Yeah, me either. I don't eat pork.
I haven't eaten pork since maybe I was a kid, but my mother used to call me her Jewish kid.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
I eat pork, but I also love, and this is something I got into. My family wasn't into it, but I got into it as a young adult and still eat lots of fish. I love.
Yeah, me too. I love fish. Yeah. Anything from the ocean, I'll eat. I mean, I'm not a big oyster fan, which is like sacrilegious for a Louisiana person to say, but other than that, I love seafood.
Oh yeah, I could love a nice baked trout or some salmon.
Baked trout.
I love it. I love baked trout.
Yeah,
it's delicious.
Trout, eh?
But I
love that. That's the first thing you went to was baked trout.
I love it. You could put some baked trout because you don't have to do a lot to it. If people who
that's true.
People who really like fish, that you don't have to do a lot to, because you'll have people who really aren't, they're not into fish. And I go, do you like fish? Oh, I like fried fish. I'm like, no, you don't like
just fish with lemon, just a little lemon. I know I did a weird thing for lemon. I just did this for lemon. Squeeze a lemon, some pepper, Tony Chachere's, like sheet pan dinner, go.
And I'm a big fan of black pepper. I love black pepper.
Me too. But I have some right there that I'm looking at. I love black pepper.
But when people tell you and the funny thing about fried fish is that it's usually a fish that doesn't taste good unless you fry it. Like codfish doesn't have a big taste unless you do something to it, or flounder. And sometimes people get tricked about fish to think that it's better than it is. Like if you go into a restaurant, I'm having filet of sole. That's just a big flounder.
Right.
You're just being tricked into thinking that's fancy.
Exactly.
It's actually the fish that have the most taste are actually the healthiest fish.
Like salmon. I mean, I'm a big fan of salmon. Are you a salmon person? We used to always have salmon on Boardwalk.
Absolutely. And another thing is that people don't realize salmon actually also has vitamin C.
I didn't know it had vitamin C. And because you're saying salmon, my dogs are going nuts. When I bake it, we bake like a little bit extra for them.
Oh, yeah.
And they know that they're obsessed with salmon. I didn't know it had vitamin C. I knew it obviously had omegas, and it's good for people with anxiety and stuff. It's good for like the mental component of your life. I didn't know it had vitamin C. That's awesome.
Yeah, it doesn't have as much as if you had a citrus fruit, but it does have vitamin C also. It's funny, the things that do have vitamin C, especially with the pandemic, everybody was worrying about things, and I was worrying about vitamin C and vitamin D and making sure enough of those things. And vitamin D is hard to get in different foods, but vitamin C is in a lot of foods. People think it's only in citrus fruits, but it's actually in things. Salmon is one of them. Yeah. So salmon's delicious.
Wow.
I could eat fish all the time. And now you're from Louisiana, so you must love, because you were mentioning crawfish before. Crawfish are delicious, but they're almost like an arts and crafts project. If you want to eat a bunch of crawfish, take the thing apart and everything.
Yeah, and there's too much poo. Speaking of duty, crawfish have too much poo in them. I'd rather eat a shrimp. Like I'm a big fan of shrimp. Yeah. But yeah, crawfish, you're right, arts and crafts project. On my resume, I still have as a special skill that I can peel a crawfish, because it's a good conversation starter, but they're a pain in the butt. I like the claws, like when you get one with a big old claw. But yeah, they're poopy. They've got a lot of poop in them. I don't want to eat. I don't know if you ever watched that Lisa Kudrow show, The Comeback, where she's like, I don't need to see that. I'm like, I don't need to see that with the crawfish pooping. Yeah. I know. Pregnant and pause.
We always go back to the crap. But so when you got into acting, I know you said you started off doing the burlesque thing, but were you into, because when we were hanging out, we were talking about musicals and stuff, but then you said you don't sing and dance very well, but you're into musicals. I have to imagine you are practically a musical comedy character, as I am. But
yes.
Are you a fan of musicals?
Oh my God, are you kidding me? I mean, the Glamazon said I couldn't sing or dance well, but I'd like to think differently. My mom doesn't think I sing well. She thinks I'm getting better. My boyfriend has a hearing problem. He thinks I sing beautifully. So, I mean, the dogs think I do everything wonderfully. I grew up with Little Shop of Horrors. I would watch Little Shop of Horrors. I have to enunciate horrors, so it doesn't sound like I'm saying whores, but I would watch. You're nodding like you're a fan too. Like there's something so quirky. You'd be a perfect, actually we would be a perfect Audrey too, together, combine us. You'd be a great Seymour or Orville or The Dentist. But yeah, I would watch that on repeat. I love musicals. I like the weirder ones like Hedwig, Rent, obviously. And I'm saying the weirder ones, but I also like the classic ones too. I'm not like a big fan of like The King and I, but like I want to see The Music Man when it comes out.
76
yeah.
trombones.
Yeah, okay. I said counterpoint, but I don't know what I was thinking about. But yeah, I love musicals.
Did you see, because you were talking about Little Shop of Horrors, and that's Howard Ashman and Alan Menken. Did you see the Disney documentary on Howard Ashman?
I did not. Is that on Disney Plus?
It's probably on Disney Plus.
Right. All right. I'm gonna have to watch it.
It's just called Howard. It's really good. It's about his career. He didn't live very long, but he did a lot of stuff in his time. So so then when you were going into the burlesque stuff, after that, what did you go into? Were you mostly theater?
I went into comedy, so improv comedy specifically. I did some stand-up comedy, but as a person who does not like to be out late at night, stand-up didn't really fit well with my schedule, and I couldn't really make any money at it. But improv, I did several gigs where they paid us well. We traveled, and I studied with UCB, Upright Citizens Brigade. That was fun. I just really like the whole improv, like flying by the seat of your pants kind of thing. We did some musical improv too, which was fun, at least for me. I don't know about for the audience, but it was fun.
Now, and are you in Equity?
I'm not in Equity. And I debated joining, but like now with the pandemic and everything, it's like, but no, I'm not. I
actually before the pandemic, I've suspended mine thing because I wasn't getting enough, but actually it's through Equity that I got into SAG. But
word.
Yeah, but it's a while ago. I before even the lockdowns and stuff, before any of that ever happened or even existed, I suspended it. You could suspend it, so you
right.
Get kicked out because I was like, I'm not getting anything, but the dues went up, so I'm not paying. I said I didn't want to pay those.
Yeah, screw that.
Yeah, but what was I going to ask you? So you weren't in Equity, but you were doing improv and stuff like that, and I guess that's why you wanted to create that web series, because you wanted to write and create your own characters. This is what I always preferred when I was doing stage work too. I think I was doing it to just meet people who I could get to do my own stuff with. Like, you do sets. Okay, let me talk to you. You know what I mean?
Right. Let's stay connected.
Yeah, that type of thing, because all I wanted to do, and if you have a comedian soul, you basically want to be self-possessed. You're more in charge. You want to be in charge of the idea and the cultivator of the idea, which is a little different from from somebody who's an actor. Now, when I cast,
Oh, that's a really good way to put it.
When
That's a really good way to put it.
when I cast my show, I usually never cast other comedians because they're going to want to do things their way, and I want them to do things my way. So I usually cast people with a musical comedy background, even if the show is not necessarily has any music in it, because that's
Right.
the perfect type of. You could tell someone who knows musical comedy. You could tell them, say the word this way because it's funny that way. You know, you like say it that way, hit it that way, and they understand it more. You know,
Right.
as opposed to
You really articulated this well. Like I want to save this chunk, especially of the podcast, because you really articulated all this well. That's been in my head for years.
oh, I'm brilliant, and the hair.
You are.
But I mean, your mother said so. But
You did.
it is always interesting when you want to create, because it's a totally different thing when you're writing and producing and your own stuff, especially if you're the lead person in it, like I do, and I've done in my stage shows and I've done in my web series. It is first of all, it's like you said before, it's a lot of work. People have no idea that it's just a lot of work, and it takes up all of your time. It's fun. It's a great obsession.
Right.
It's a great obsession, but it is something that it's not like merely. And I don't want to say merely, but it's not like just learning your part. You have to, first of all, if you wrote it yourself, produced it yourself, you know every part. You know how to do every part. That's how you know the right people to cast. And then you have to worry about everything that a producer would worry about. What are the sets? What are the costumes? If it's a live show, the tickets and how many people are coming and all that stuff. And worry about your own performance because you're also the lead and you have to make sure that you hold everything together. I did it brilliantly. But but it is a different thing. Sometimes it gives me a different point of view sometimes with actors, because like I could be sympathetic to actors because I am one, but when I'm a producer and director, I could be a lot more critical of things that actors do where I go, yo, what a pussy. I mean, like
Right.
like being a flake or not learning your lines right.
Needy. Like my deal is I cannot deal with needy actors. I'm like, just read the directions. I spent 30 minutes composing this email. Read the directions. I'm not going to hold your hand. It doesn't mean I don't love you. I just don't have time.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
Yeah. Actors can be very needy. So whenever I work on somebody else's project, I try to be like anti-needy.
Right.
You know, so I don't bother people, almost to my detriment. But yeah, like that, it's hard, you know, because you have to be like the mother, the father, and the producer. You're right. And the ringleader and the ringmaster. It's difficult. And
it's also, you know, actors are they can be, because I guess I'm outing myself too. They could be children. They could be like little kids about a lot of things. And sometimes their whole perception is, I guess, for lack of a better term, selfish. For instance, I might shoot a whole scene, and then when I edit, I don't use that much of it. But I know that I use the best part, the most interesting part, the most important part, and hopefully the funniest part. But that's all I needed because I needed to get to the other scene and I needed to get to the other thing. But you usually have an actor go, why'd you cut that out? That was good. That's because you were in it and you want to see more of you. You know, don't you find that that happens a lot, you know? Yes. And it's like you need to keep the story moving. And it's got to have, especially with comedy, it's got to be right. Because if it's not moving along, then you've got to cut it out. I mean, like I shot a fabulous scene down in Memphis on a show called Quarry for Cinemax. And I cold cocked a guy on the head with a skillet with a frying pan. And I thought it was a fabulous scene, but it didn't move the story along. I mean, clearly it didn't move. I mean, like maybe if they would have kept it, it would have gone on for more than one season. But the show in and of itself was very slow moving. So they probably had to cut hours and hours of footage. So it's like you take it personally for a second and then you move on with it, you know? But like us as like the creators, we're the ones moving everything along and trying to not worry about hurting people's feelings, because we're not thinking about it personally like, oh, I'm not going to use Joe Smith's take of why did I do that, because it just doesn't work. But Joe Smith is like, why did I do that was brilliant. And it's like, no, it wasn't, because it doesn't fulfill the need for the scene. Yeah, it's totally true. I remember when I did a series of stage shows at the Broadway Comedy Club, my own musical comedy shows, and they were like fake, sort of naughty variety shows, but almost like the Muppet Show. It was really a sitcom about a variety show. So I had guest performers.
Yes.
I had guest performers do spots, but I also had my stock characters in a storyline that went throughout the night of the show. And I would use a lot of the same people over and over again. And sometimes they had big parts and sometimes I had small parts. So I remember there was this whole long show I did, and one actor was in it and had one little part in it that time, because I did new ones every month, a brand new one every month. So I remember the whole show finished, everything was good. And that actor walked up to me and goes, "I did that line good, right?" And I was like, "What?" I couldn't remember because it was just one thing. I was like, yeah, you did it good, yeah. But you do have to deal with that, and then you start to have a little more sympathy. I think writing and producing and directing my own stuff has made me a better actor, because it made me realize when I'm doing that, the things that I don't like,
And you want to fit into that puzzle easier to make your life, like our job, a lot of actors don't realize, but our job is to make it easier, like to tell the story. Our job is to like feel the flow, keep it flowing.
Right.
And a lot of actors think it's about me, it's about my time, razzle dazzle. Hey, if that fills the storyline, yes, but no, your job is to just keep it moving,
Right. Exactly. And it gave me a better appreciation for that. Also, what I also found is that a lot of people, especially if you're friends with people and you work with them, usually it's the people I know I have more problems with than the people I don't know. Because the people I don't know come into the project audition and want to just do the job as best they can, their level best. The person I know thinks it's okay because he knows me to maybe argue with me or maybe be a little late. You ever have that? And you're like, no, I'm going to get rid of you first. You don't understand. Like, I'll get rid of you first. Or, most actors, even if they're great, are not writers, are not directors. Are not producers.
Right.
Those are different things. And
they're not editors,
They're not editors. And sometimes if you're doing those things well, you don't show the strain of it on your own self. So the co-actor who is in your project with you might think, oh, I guess I could write too, since you do. I'm like, all right, go ahead. And they never do.
Yep.
They'll come up to me, and I get this a lot, especially in comedy. They'll come up to me and go, "Oh, I got this great idea." So this is how I get rid of them. I go, "Okay, write it and send it to me," and they never do.
Never do. Yeah. The biggest diva I've ever worked with is my dad, actually. Like just wanting to come in and do his thing, and I'm like, "No, I'm going to set you up to be funny, Dad. Like, trust me." And he'll come in with a little razzle dazzle. Or for Pageant Pom Mom, his job was to be a background actor and to corral the person who comes in for child labor laws, because we had some children acting in it, and he failed at his job. And I'm like, you're the biggest diva, but sometimes, like they say, don't work with like children or pets. I say don't work with family members, because my family members can be crazy, they can like do what they want to do, Yeah. But my mom's, I've trained her. She's a trained director of photography now. But no, my mom used to be more like of a diva about it. Now she's very good. I just wish she would perform more, because people tend to like her.
The problem when we work with family, because I used to use my in fact, all my production stuff ends with my logo and my father's voice going, "You're sick in the head." But I used to use my mom. My mom's gone now, but I used to use her recordings of her and stuff like that in my act and stuff like that. But because she used to have a foul mouth, so I used to read like, "Oh, I got a fan letter from my mother," and then I would just play the "you motherfucker," it was all this stuff.
I love it.
But the hardest thing to do, I found, when you work with family members, is for them to realize that it is actually a job.
Yeah, word.
That it is actually work. It's not just playing around. It's actually work. Yep. It's hard work. Sometimes they go, why were you up all night? Finishing this, you don't understand, And it's funny with the writing thing. With acting is so out front when you're doing it. And I find writing to be a very reclusive thing. Like I have to be completely alone. I don't even understand people who write in a cafe or in the park. I can't even do that. I have to be completely alone and in my own head.
Yeah. Writing is very tough because I get easily, as we know, I get easily distracted. So I'll try to do it from my little desk area, but then I'll have my mom or the Pomeranians like distracting me of no fault of their own. And I'm like, look, I'm in the zone. I'm not like doing data entry for a 9-to-5 job. I'm doing creative genius in my brain. Leave me alone. You know,
You have to be stuck in your head. You have to be stuck in your head.
Yeah.
And it's where I spend most of my time, but it's also,
me too.
It's also the only way to do it. I think I've never understood when people tell me I went to the Starbucks and I was writing. I'm thinking they're not really writing.
No, you're messing around having like a $7 latte and like people watching for a few hours.
Also,
I can't do that either. I'd like to, but I can't.
Nah, you can't do it. You gotta be free of every other distraction. But also, I found that anybody who posts online or something about the fact that they're writing something is not writing anything.
I know. You know, it was so funny. I was thinking about that earlier, and I have a few good friends who do that. And I'm like, guys, are you writing or are you writing about writing? You know, and I should be writing right now. Why am I reading their Facebook post? You know, but yeah.
But like I see people like I'm I'm writing a screenplay. No, you're not, because you're
on Facebook
yeah,
or Instagram or wherever. Yeah, I know. I feel you.
And plus, writers usually don't talk about what they're writing until they're done. You know.
Word.
So that's what I find definitely to be true.
Yeah, I don't like to talk about it till it's done and has a copyright, you know, because I'm like, you know, those little thieves and beasts, and you hold it precious like a baby. You know?
I definitely had that. I did the first episode of my web series Tune Into Goonan, and I copyrighted it, and it had animation, and it has my original music in it, and I used original music because I don't want to pay for rights. So you know, and so I got a little jazz band to play the theme song and everything like that in it and everything, and I did all that stuff, and did my first episode, and then I through networking online found another person who had a production company, you know, in quotes, so to speak, you know, just a dude who had equipment, and he charmed me to want to do another episode. So I did another episode, and we got into a fight later on because I told him right off the bat, I said, I'm going to own this and you're not. I said, this only belongs to me. And I wasn't even covert about it. I told him, okay, now I'm going to copyright it. And I did copyright it. And you know, if you copyright anything, whether it's episodic or not, if it's derivative of something else you copyrighted, you can say that in your copyright so that it's sort of a chain of title. So let's say you wrote.
Give me an example.
Let's say you were writing that swamp story.
Right. Yeah. Texarkana.
And
that beast is copywritten. So if anybody is inspired to write another book about Texas, she is copywritten. But I'm sorry, Charles, go ahead.
No, you're right. But let's say you wrote that and you copyrighted it.
Okay.
Copyrighted it.
Okay.
And then later on, you wanted to write something else that was maybe a continuation of not even that character, but another character, an ancillary character.
I see.
You can include in the copyright, is there anything in this that is derivative of any past copyrights you have? And you do that, and it shows a chain of title of ownership over time. So I do that, and I remember I got into a big fight with this person who was really in a lowlife, who wanted to fight with me over the rights of my show, but I legally owned it. I had our correspondence as proof that we always had this agreement, and he couldn't do anything about it. And now I do everything myself.
Yeah. Wow, Charles. But it's hard, like the drama and BS that have to go into this sometimes, that go into all this creative stuff and like these legal things that people aren't aware of. And I get with like the family members not knowing that this is a real job. Like I say real job because I'm quoting them, not me. It's a real job, but I'm quoting them, unquoting themselves. They don't realize like this is extra legwork on your part that takes away from the creativity, you know?
Yeah. And unfortunately, there's a whole group of people who want to be in show business, but don't belong in show business. And they're not necessarily creative people at all. They're just somebody who bought a bunch of equipment and lavalier mics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they really
Yeah.
only exist so long as other people have talent and have material, and they press record. So there
Yeah.
are people like that you have to watch out for, and never believe anybody who tells. This is how you could tell somebody's ignorant about stuff. Two things. This was the same dude who I had a problem with, and I should have known this. You know, he thought that. He goes, oh, I copyright my stuff too. I mail it to myself. I said, that's not copywriting. That's not copywriting.
No, it's not.
And the second thing he did was in another project, he wanted to use, because he found out that I like Bing Crosby. So he wanted to use that as part of a character in something else. I was doing his project. And he was doing my project, and that was our arrangement. So I was performing and helping write his project, which never got made because that's that person he is. But he was like, "Oh, and we'll use this song and this song." I said, "You can't use Bing Crosby." And they're like, and he's like, "What are you talking about? It's from the 40s." I'm like, "What do you mean? You think that people don't own that because it's old?" I said, "That's how you know he didn't know what he was talking about, and I should have known that." But that's why, for instance, I did my own original music for my show. First of all, I'd rather do that because it makes everything organic and it gives it its own theme and everything like that. But also, I don't want to pay for the rights of anything.
Yeah. And in 1940s is still recent enough. I think it's like going back to I think early 1900s that you can use, but there's certain rules about that.
Of course.
Bing Crosby's definitely copywritten.
See, what I did in my first episode is I did use one old song in my first episode. I had a guy sing "You're a Grand Old Flag," but George M. Cohan's songs are in the public domain. So that's why I chose that. Now, I could use my character singing it on the street, but I can't use a record of somebody singing it because then the record.
Exactly.
So people don't understand those rights and all that, but it's the stuff that you worry about when you're a producer.
Yep. And just same with parodies, because I've done a couple parodies, and I did an Adele parody, and it's okay because it's a parody, but using the stock music or the royalty free music to back it up. Now I'm not making any money on YouTube, but if I do, I have to split that with the people who made the backup music, if that makes any sense. But it's a parody. Parody laws are weird as well. Yeah, it's very tricky. And it's you've got to know your homework before you dive into doing something creatively sometimes. It's I don't want to jump in and get so creative about something if I'm going to be blocked. I want to say another word, but if I'm blocked, you know what I mean, for even going there, So sometimes when you think from producer head, you're blocking yourself from creative head, because why jump into something if it's not going to happen without having $1 million,
Right. Because then you did all that work for nothing. So you are going to be doing more of this podcast about health and all that. And are you going to incorporate any of your theatricality into this?
Oh, Charles, I think so. I mean, I think I'm a naturally theatrical person, and many of these things are storytelling, if you will. So that's what I love to do. I love to tell tales. I love to tell a story. Some of them are going to be loosely or strongly based on different parts of my show. So some parts will be more theatrical, where it's I'm telling a tale and there's a buildup. Some of it's a little bit more we're doing riffing. But yes, will there be fireworks and stuff? Not yet. Will there be royalty-free 80s themed music? Perhaps. But yeah, that's the hard part with wanting to use Rick Astley, Never Gonna Give You Up and stuff like that. I can't use it, But yeah, some parts will be theatrical. It will be much more theatrical than your normal health and wellness podcast.
And where can we check that out?
That beast is on Apple Podcasts. It's on Google Podcasts, Spotify. The easiest way to find it is just go to my name, brookehoover.com/podcast. Yeah, it's up there. Who's Dat Fat Girl by Brooke Hoover. If you Google it to any of your podcast things, that will come up.
And also at brookehoover.com, you could probably get links and information about all the other projects we were just talking about.
Word, exactly.
Word.
Thank you, Charles. Word.
Right.
I know, that's so not 1920s of us.
Well, I want to thank you for being on the show. And
You're welcome.
we had a fun time. Hopefully we can meet up soon. And I think we should probably do a project in the future. I could see us doing something comedy-wise in the future.
We should. I mean, I don't want to like blow our gasket, but I think we have like a Lucy Desi thing going on. I mean, without like the hatred they had of each other in the long run. But like we definitely have a good like tete-a-tete going on. We've always been a good connection. And that's what you're a good interviewer. You really are. Good tale teller.
Well, and also all the information we had about the right duty, what size, what color. Don't be too nutty, don't be too corny, don't be so green. You know, I always thought of comedy is just like duty. Sometimes it's corny, sometimes it's nutty, sometimes you're too green.
Yeah. Oh, Charles, look at you. He just wrote that, y'all. That was not written in.
Chugga, chugga, chugga.
Oh.
All right. So thank you very much for being on our show. We're going to definitely check out all your stuff. And ladies and gentlemen, it is I, the Great Goonan. This has been the Great Goonan Podcast. And we've been talking to Brooke Hoover. Stay healthy, stay wise, stay funny. Peace.
Bye.
Sick in the head.